Ba-doop-boop-ba-doop-doo. I'm going live. I'm going live. That's interesting. It looks like we've got a delay in the stream. I'm going to stop the stream and restart it. Okay. Looks like we're going again. Yeah, it looked like OBS put the stream delay in there, which I really didn't want. We're ditching the whole stream delay thing. So I don't know how long I'll go tonight, but we're going to try to do some shots, which you can't really see on the paper, but I like to black out my shots on paper. And before we get busy on a shot, we'll recap where we are at from a week ago. Why a week ago, you say? Well, I spent the week in Denver, Colorado, visiting with family. And some of you might have seen my live stream from the Colorado Rockies baseball game. One of the worst teams in the history of baseball. But it was still fun. I got to see a grand slam home run in a baseball game. My first Major League Baseball game I ever went to, and I was able to witness a grand slam home run. That's the good news. The bad news is it was the St. Louis Cardinals that got the grand slam. So anyway, so I think this was the last shot I was working on. I'll put this actually on the big screen like this. So I'm pretty sure the last shot I was working on before I went on vacation for a week was this. Now, truth be told, I actually got quite a bit done in a spurt of effort before I left to go on vacation. So I will note to you tonight, and so I should say I knocked out this shot. This is the nobles complaining about the taxes, and Golik is trying to sort of basically get them to shut up, if the truth be known. What are you going to do about it? And then all of a sudden Golik realizes, rain? And he launches into this tirade where he's going to claim that he's beseeched the heavens on behalf of the nobles. And hey, Maria. Yeah, it's a really, really, really very spread out city. That's for sure. You really have to go plan on driving for 45 minutes or an hour to kind of sort of do much in Denver. That was my observation as far as the city goes. It's a beautiful city, though. When we saw the baseball game, the old part of the city kind of reminded me of things of, you know, in the past. See a little bit of Chicago, a little bit of New Orleans, you know. Anyway, but yeah. Hey, Nutgut. Okay, so anyway, so I'll tell you the sad story is that on the airplane coming home, I literally was behind a family, right? And if you're looking at the front of the plane, I'm on the aisle seat, 3 on each side, and I'm on the aisle seat on the left side. Well, in front of me, there's 3 children, and they've got to have been 3, 4, 5, like really young, all boys. And then across the aisle, so this is 1 row ahead of me, so kitty corner from where I was sitting was the mother. And then beside her, I don't know for sure, but I think the person next to her in the center seat was probably her husband. During the whole trip, the husband was looking at this stack of papers and making notes on it. Okay? The mother was repeatedly trying to work on a laptop. So I actually know the mother's name because every time she opened her laptop, it said right on the screen. So I won't say her name. The child in the seat directly in front of me had a very deep, raspy cough. I mean, it was worse than that. It actually had that deep resonance you have when you a really raspy cough. Because he was probably 4 years old, he had his mask off far more than he had it on. When he finally became intrusive enough to everybody around him, the mother would reach over, pull the mask off, wipe the kid's nose. So she's handling all these Kleenex and whatnot. And then, you know, at one point the kid's coughing. I kind of peek around and I can see that the kid isn't even wearing a mask. Like it's mandatory to have a mask on. The kid doesn't have the mask on at all. Now it did sometimes. He did sometimes. And but he's just spraying whatever the kid's got. Not saying it's COVID. In fact, it probably isn't, but it could be. And he's just spraying it all over this airplane. And you know, every once in a while, the you know that the mother knew everybody's thinking, what the hell are you doing on this plane? Like, could you possibly be any more irresponsible than to travel today? And of course, she doesn't want to deal with that, so she keeps reaching over and she'll just kind of touch the kid on the shoulder. Like, if you touch the child, that's going to not only make the child feel better, but everyone around will maybe feel better because they'll think you're a good mother. Which I'm not saying she's a bad mother, but pretty irresponsible. Because what she would do is she would touch the child, and then the kid would you just hack, and then she'd go like this. She'd kind of signal him, oh, like, cover your mouth. Like, after he's already coughed. She tells him to cover his mouth. And the kid's like 4 years old. So there's no working with him. There's no enforcement. The dad just sat there the entire plane ride and never did anything except study his papers. And when the mother could possibly get away with it, she ignored all three of the children and was trying to write a letter on her laptop. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that's good. That's because that's really, really important. That's extremely important that letter that's 3 paragraphs long, that you get that written during a 2-hour plane ride. Yeah, the kids aren't important. No, they're not important. So yeah. And then what kind of pissed me off, to tell you the truth, is around 11 o'clock last night after I got home, after being absolutely free of even a sniffle for 14 months because of an abundance of caution in light of a global pandemic. I've had a few sniffles, but I do have seasonal allergies, but I have not been sick in well over a year. Sure enough, I get home last night and I start feeling all pasty in my throat. Can you believe this? Now, I don't know if that's because of the kid. In fact, I think it's not, to tell you the truth. That's actually the more concerning thing, because I don't know if that... So as you can see, OBS... as you can see, OBS is doing its usual thing. And so, yeah, that was pretty frustrating. I mean, I don't know if I have a cold because of this kid that had no mask on and was coughing like crazy. And I am fully vaccinated. But to see a parent doing what this lady was doing was just... I had to pretend I was in a sitcom. I had to pretend I was in an episode of a sitcom because it was so off the chart. At one point, the kid was throwing a toy, and it might have been one of the other two actually, but throws a toy back into our seat and really ticked off the woman 2 seats over from me, and she actually scolded the mother. Wow. But it's kind of amazing to think about. You know, you exercise an abundance of caution for months, and you actually succeed. You never ever get sick. And then one freaking trip on an airplane, and you're surrounded by a complete idiot, frankly, that is taking a kid that's obviously pretty sick, bringing it on the airplane, and not even concerning themselves with the mask or anything. People like that, I mean, you can have whatever opinion you want to have about either vaccines or the spread of COVID. People can argue about all this kind of stuff. But my beautiful wife studied virology in college. She's basically a lab rat. She understands how viruses work. And believe me, to do what that parent did was spectacularly irresponsible and stupid. Because basically, that one action could easily, over the next 3 months, result in thousands of people being sick. Even if it's not COVID. Could just be a cold. But easily thousands of people because of just one person transmits to 2 to 4 to 8, and on it goes. So yeah, crazy. But that's what you deal with. That's what you deal with in the world of blanking idiots. Sorry, I do have a bit of an attitude about it. And now, again, it might not have been that. That might not be why I feel a little under the weather. And I don't know how long a common cold incubates. So it's actually more concerning to me that it wasn't because of the kid. Because again, it would have taken about 5-6 hours to manifest with a symptom where I kind of felt a little tickle. I don't know if it can manifest that quick. And if it can't, then that means that I already had a cold coming on before, which means I exposed some people to something. I didn't know I had something. And the good news is this. Today, I've been nebulizing with colloidal silver. I know. You'd think so, Maria. They have the rule and they don't quite enforce it. They do tell people if you're going to eat, just make it quick, that type of thing. So there's a little latitude with the masks, but what happened there was not that. I mean, this was a blatant problem where this kid is obviously really sick. I could totally see having some ability. I mean, what would they do if somebody got really sick on a plane? Flu, vomiting, or even worse. What would you do? You would think they would have some mechanism to sort of isolate that person, maybe from the rest of the plane, or I don't know, but it makes you think. So anyway, what we've got to do here tonight is this would be shot number 588. So we're looking at the edit here. So sorry, we're taking a few minutes here to get going. Again, I don't know, because I do feel a little under the weather. I don't know how long I'm going to go tonight, but I would hope that I can kind of get this, at least one of these couple shots here blocked in. So this would be shot number 588. So my normal practice is what I did here, which is I actually blocked the shot out on paper. I really recommend that, people. I really recommend it, because a lot of the people who come to this channel are kind of new to animation, and a lot of times they fall into this same old fallacy where they really are looking, should I use Blender? Should I use Clip Studio Paint? Should I use Krita? Should I use Tahoma? Should I use OpenToonz? Blah, 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 blah. Should I pay money for TV Paint? Should I pay money for Toon Boom or Harmony or whatever they call it? The reality is that taking 15 minutes on paper, blocking in the drawings, and sort of planning the movement, just taking time to think on paper. What I do is I actually limit it to one sheet of paper. So I have to get the shot planned out on that one sheet of paper. And the idea, the mentality behind it is, when I come to the software, I'm not here to be creative as much. I'm here to X588. Now, as far as getting well, I will tell you this. I did a few things. One is, as I said, if you have anything bronchial going on, colloidal silver, actually, to be clear, ionic colloidal silver, 100 parts per million. You can find it on Amazon. There's different brands. But if you put that in a nebulizer and breathe it, the colloidal silver particles will kill pathogens. Now, specifically, if they really kill viruses, I'm not sure. I definitely know colloidal silver will kill bacteria, and it has been used as an antibiotic for years. I mean, back in the old day, it was used to clean wounds in wartime and things like that. Colloidal silvers, like, one thing it's killer for is conjunctivitis. If you get like pink eye or something, it'll generally knock it out in a day. It's pretty crazy. So, so I did that to protect my lungs a bit. The other thing I did was kind of like, if you've ever heard of a neti pot. A neti pot is this, I think it's an Asian thing. But what it is, the idea is that you actually pour water into your nostril and you actually snort it up into your sinus. Now, that's a really uncomfortable thing to do. Some people probably can't do it. But if you have seasonal allergies, in my experience, it's better than any drug, because it literally just cleans out the sinuses and takes the allergens out. And the same thing with anything that's in there. So the way I do it is I get in the shower and I just get under the water and I sniff so a little water goes in. Then I pitch my nose, tilt my head back, and I snort. It is uncomfortable, but you do that like 3 or 4 or 5 times. It really cleans out your sinuses, and it does absolutely help. So the sort of neti pot thing combined with the colloidal silver thing, plus I did take a zinc lozenge. You always want to, if you start feeling a cold come on, immediately take zinc. Immediately. It will nip it in the bud. It'll stop it from turning bad. You still might get a cold, but it'll be much, much less severe. Okay? So, I mean, the reality is, literally less than 24 hours since I started feeling bad, I already feel better. I feel better today than I did yesterday. And for most people, if you just wait out a cold to see what it's going to do, you never feel better the next day. Usually it takes about a week to sort of get through it. So I'm feeling somewhat bullish on that I'm going to be doing okay with this situation. So now we'll save this as 588. And we're getting into the fun stuff here any minute here, folks. So, okay, so who's here tonight? We got Nutgut, we got Maria, and I don't know who else. So, again, I don't know how long I'll last. Looks like I'm on the wrong screen, actually. Sorry about that. You guys have been looking at the edit. It really doesn't matter. I was just doing a little housekeeping to get Tahoma ready to go. And so, 588. This drawing that is on the storyboard is wrong. I'm going to overrule that. And basically, I've got this shot. I'm probably not going to do this shot because this is a variation of this one, and I don't want to go back into this shot. So I'm going to do this one a little differently. I'm going to do this one a little differently as well. And then probably I'm going to wind up getting another shot of the villagers stuck in there that's not even in the storyboard. So because of what I did on paper, I'm going to take a little bit of liberty tonight with the storyboard. Okay? So, oh, you know what? There's one more thing I did, and I'm just sharing this, Maria. I'm not the shot of strong alcohol. It does have good energy. I agree with you. I think what I did on paper I like better, but at the end of the day, it probably doesn't matter. One's probably as good as the other, but because I just drew it a little while ago, I'm going to go with that. So the alcohol thing, I'm not sure about that. Okay, so I won't comment. You know, if it works for him, it works for him. But as far as the sweating thing, the other thing I did was I have a far infrared jade mat. So that's like a it's basically a heating pad, but it uses jade stones. You can get them on Amazon for, I don't know, probably $200. You know, it's like a really big heating pad that you can lay on it, and what happens is the way that the far infrared light that's generated when the jade stones are heated up, they actually emit far infrared light like you get from the sun. And what it does is it actually causes cellular action so that the heat from the heating pad actually comes from you as the cells kind of work together and actually generate heat. And what happens is you give yourself, if you cover up with some blankets or something, you effectively give yourself an artificial fever. And you do that for like an hour. And you'll sweat like a pig. And I've found that's pretty effective too. So anyway, enough medicine. Probably get myself sued here by the American Medical Association for talking about how to, you know, not die from whatever it is that's ailing you. So anyway, in this prior shot, because I reused this other one, he raises his hands up. So that means I probably need to have a shot. I'm going to go ahead and pencil test this. So I'm going to make this really, really sketchy because all I want to do is get the feeling of it. Because this is going to be a really rapid tween. So we have to start with his hands up in the air like this. So let's just make it a nice sketch. We'll do this Glenn Keane style where it's very, very sketchy. We're just trying to get the feel of the motion and the characters and stuff, okay? So he's got this kind of funky hat I decided to give him so that he wasn't having the obnoxious pointy hat. Okay, so this is coming off from the long shot, and just to be consistent with his costuming, we need to give him these long tassels, and then he also had kind of his big red collar. Okay, so there's Gulick, and now what we'll probably do, I think, I'm going to just do it this way. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. What I'm going to do is just put in the simplest possible tween. Okay, so I'm going to grab this, smack it there, and I'm going to do a tiny little movement like this. I'm going to grab this. So this is just mapping out the movement. As simply as possible. So okay, so this is actually a duplicate. Well, that was unintentional. I'm going to actually delete that. And I'm going to come over here. I hope this works. And I'm going to delete that as well, because I really didn't want that one in there. Okay, so you can see it's just a really small movement, and then we're going to actually snap to a completely different pose. And because we're moving fast, we should be able to kind of sort of make this work. So in other words, these two frames are only on the screen for 1 second, so they're only there to give us a sense of him snapping from this pose to basically this kind of thing, okay, which you'll see here in a minute when I draw it. So we're just going to boom, boom, and then let's get this kind of blocked in, and you'll see what I'm talking about. All right, so I'm looking at my paper. As you can see, try to keep the sizes of things pretty consistent. So I think what I probably started to say like 3 times and haven't actually said is I don't know how long I'll go tonight, because if I start feeling icky again, I might just, you know, cut it off and say, hey, better go to bed early tonight. But at this point, to my delight, I feel pretty, not exactly normal, but definitely not like I'm particularly sick. So that's been, I'm kind of glad that went my way. Okay, Golik, what are we going to do with you here, buddy? Tell you what, I'm just going to sketch in these sort of body parts, and we'll go in and tighten up the details here shortly. So what I wanted to do is basically have 2 poses. So we're going to have essentially 4 keys here in a fairly short period of time. 2 to get us from here to here, and then this will probably hold for a few frames, and then he's going to snap his arms out. So, and this makes sense with the dialogue, because he says, do you see, I beseech the rains on your behalf. So he's trying to basically pull one over on the citizenry. Golik is a very opportunistic guy, and so he's got these nobles here at the prince's wedding, which he architected in order to make a power grab, which I'm not going to explain all that right now. But anyway, he architected this wedding situation, and his planned event schedule kind of got a little bit interrupted by these nobles right here who are chiming in and interrupting him and saying, hey, what are you going to do about these taxes? Because there's been a drought. It's been a pretty negative situation, and you know, these people, hey, Inyo-san, short vacation. Well, it was a week. So yeah, Golik is getting interrupted by these people, and they're complaining about the tax situation. And then all of a sudden, for the first time in a long time, there's a raindrop. And Golik, being the opportunistic guy that he is, he seizes upon the raindrop to make the claim that he's beseeched the heavens on behalf of the people. And look, they've heard your plea, and now finally the rains have come, and this is a great day, kind of thing. But that's Golik. He's always quick on his feet. He's always ready to take any situation and try to turn it to his own advantage. So that's kind of what that's all about. So now here, if we don't put it, if we have it not be cropped to the camera by clicking that icon, you can see that my actual frames are full HD, even though my camera sees a broadcast HD frame. So that gives me a little cropping room, so that if I need to, I could maybe have a little bigger background and the camera pans over it and stuff like that. So I hope that kind of makes sense. So if anybody has any questions, as I'm plunking along here, feel free to chime in with any questions or comments, because probably I'm going to sort of phase into just cranking away at this if I can. So I'm hitting Shift Spacebar. Now Golic has these slightly Asian eyes, I guess one might say. Oh, that's not what I wanted. And he's a bit of an older gentleman. Don't like that. I need to give him a little bit of those. Yes, we got to put his eyebrows up higher. Like that. He's palpably annoyed by the complaining nobles. Well, it's his own fault. He imposed the taxes, you know. I mean, it's basically Golic advising the king. And the king tends to listen to Golic, unfortunately. So he's shouting out, do you see, I beseech the rains on your behalf. I have to look at the script. He may not say beseech the rains. He might be saying something else, I can't remember. But that's the gist of it. Bony cheeks. Prominent ears. Ish. Okay, hitting the M keys so I can flip the canvas and keep things balanced. Looks like it's actually pretty balanced, so no complaints. N key to see the actual size. Okay, now this needs to be a little baggier. Okay, hey Yvette, it's been a while, kiddo. Hope you're doing well. Hope the book publishing is cranking right along for you. Everybody's writing books right now. My stepfather, or I would, to be clear, my biological mother's husband, who's just an amazingly great guy. Love that guy. He's writing a second book. Valerie has been working on a book now for a couple months. Hers is all kinds of fun. It's like a zombie apocalypse kind of thing. From a decidedly pandemic virus point of view, because it's actually a disease that turns people into something kind of like a zombie. They're not actually zombies in this story, but yeah. Good for the soul, as I like to say. Writing is a very, very good thing to do. Okay, so now I'm going to zoom in here and take a little peeky poo. Not quite happy with that. We're going to, we'll just erase this. We don't need that in there. We don't need this in here. So I'm not going to try to, you know, use what I drew before, but I'm just going to completely redraw it. And then this arm, according to my plan, and I have no idea if anybody's made any comments or questions or anything. So, Amazon announced a new platform, Kindle Vella. Okay, I've been working on that. Nice. Have you thought about any tie-in with making a manga comic of Salt and Light to put out with the series? Yeah, that's actually a great question. I have thought about it, especially because my basic paradigm in terms of my approach to anime is that I favor, for economy reasons, focusing on, and you see this with lots of anime actually, but the idea is that whatever the shot is that you're working on, the question is, what's the one key pose that you might be animating into or out of that kind of best encapsulates the point of that shot. Well, if you're approaching animation that way, kind of lends itself pretty well to actually taking those still images and packing them into a book. So it's certainly no reason I couldn't. Now, there would be obviously a fair amount of work involved because you'd want to probably go a little more detailed on the ink work or, you know, whatever. So I guess the short answer is I've thought about it. but I don't have specific plans about that at this point. My goal right now is to just get the thing produced, because we're down to the last few minutes of animation on this, on episode 2. So and at this point it does look like probably we're going to be launching a crowdfund. I'd mentioned a platform, a streaming platform that was kind of looking at this as something possibly to sort of underwrite and have exclusivity about. And I also mentioned that our expectation was about a 25% chance they'd do it, probably 75% chance they'd pass, and basically as expected, they passed. Okay, so that is pretty much what I wanted. So you can see. So that gets you from this wide shot where his arms are up, and then so really, let me think about this. I guess I'll probably draw this separately. So we'll do 2 renditions of his face. Alright, so what I think I'll do is put it on number 3 so I can just toggle between 3 and 5. And that way I can, and then I'll just cut and paste the face in 3 back into 1. There's no 2 because I deleted it, because I accidentally put in 1. If you weren't here to see it, I accidentally put in. I'm drawing too many. So here, this is where I need to be really careful, because this is where it would be easy to get off character if I'm not careful. With the caveat that these 2 frames are only going to be on the, or 2 drawings are only going to be on the screen for 1 frame apiece. So, not to be a complete slop hog, but the truth is that if he was a little off character, you'd never know it because it goes by so quick, you're not even going to see it. So let's just give him a real glaring kind of look. Boom, 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 boom. I like it. I actually like it. I've been really enjoying drawing this way, where I just kind of smack down. Well, it's like cartooning, or you could think of it as maybe poetic drawing, because I'm trying to use as few lines as possible, actually. Just trying to like find the little mark that suggests to the brain what you want what the audience to think they see. Okay, so now this probably needs to be a little bigger, I think. Oopsie poo. Let's try that again. Okay, now that's interesting. Oh, I see what happened. Yeah, so let's get the thick B key. I had the S key selected. Okay. Alright, see some... how do you draw outside the safe? Oh, great question. Yeah, I actually kind of explained that a little earlier. But basically what I do is my scene is full HD. So my scene settings... let's see, I guess it'd be the level. I think it's in the preferences. My default level... yeah, the resolution is 1920 by 1080. Level size. So whenever you create a new level, that's the default size. Obviously, with vector levels, they're infinite anyway. It's an infinite canvas. But okay, so that's my default size. But my camera settings are 1280 by 720. So the camera is seeing a broadcast HD frame, even though I'm drawing a full HD frame. And that's only so that I can have some wiggle room as far as cropping or panning, you know, zooming, things like that. Got it. Pretty straightforward, I think. Okay, so let's see. I want to be able to understand how to do flow and light on water. That's you can do it. I've got a couple shots in the show that are essentially that. Back in the scene where Mel was doing laundry and there was a fish that jumped in the water, and then later actually in this episode, down here, see if I can find this. Down here towards the end of this episode, we had, let me see, we had this situation. Sorry, trying to scan. There it is. Yeah. So when I did it, I just kind of, that's not really very good actually in hindsight. I like the painting a lot, but the water I don't exactly love. But I just kind of put some squiggly lines in there. And it seems like there was a better one here. Some goes. And, oh, there it is. So, silly OBS. Silly OBS. So, I probably showed that, and you guys never saw it because of the silly OBS, like, disconnecting. So, yeah, this was kind of what I... So it's not maybe the greatest example of it ever, but it came out okay. So anyway, Alright, so stop playing, please. Stop. And back to Tahoma. Okay, so... Okay, so basically... Oh, come on. Terrible, terrible things happen when you accidentally just hit the wrong key. Okay. So I'm kind of feeling like, yeah, that's better. And his nose is not wide enough. And I'm not going to try to fix it. I'm just going to redraw it. So I'm going to try to start moving a little quicker. I'm probably going to talk less, which some of you will probably be happy about that. Because I really want to actually start making some serious headway on this. Okay, that was dumb. See what I did? I accidentally moved it like a tiny, tiny fraction, and because of that, there's no way you're ever going to get it back in the same place again. So forget it. I'm not even going to try. So paste, S key, hello, S key. Let's grab this, grab that, anchor that, pull that up, grab this, like that, put the anchor point there. I believe this was going to be like that. So it's just, it goes by quick, like. So I don't even think, he's not the most amazingly on character. Basically his eyes are too low and they're not wide enough. And I'm seriously thinking I don't really care because it's going to go by so quick you're never going to see it anyway. So not trying to be a you know, a slop hog here who doesn't care about quality. It isn't that. It's just that I have to choose my battles, and if I know something's going to go past me in literally 2 frames, the fact of the matter is you're not going to see it. These 2 frames are only in the shot to give me a logical transition from the last shot. So let me see what he says. He says, do you see? Yeah, you see frames on your rehab. Okay. So actually goes, do you see? All right, so this is going to be, do you see? Uh-huh. I'm thinking it's going to be something like 48. So he says, "Do you see? Do you see? I beseech the rains on your behalf." Okay, so yeah, it's mostly lip sync. Okay, so I'm glad I did that because now I can just go Control-Shift-R, and I'm going to go ahead and render this and cut it into the show so I can see if it flows with the last shot the way I think it's going to. So, yeah, Maria, I don't know how helpful that was with the water. But yeah, you know, a foundation, the way you describe it is really about right. I mean, you might have limit your number of tones, limit the number of planes of color that you're going to work with, limit it to like 3 or 4. So if you do 3 or 4, you're going to have probably a deep dark blue, probably for water, and then a little lighter blue, and then maybe a very, very light highlight for the would be most of your texture of, you know, the ripples in the water or whatever, and then probably some actual white for some judicious specular highlights. So with 4 tones, I think you could probably do a quite good job. So, all right, so this is going to get out of there, and then I'm going to go Project Media, Scenes, what was it, 588? Probably, let me see, yep, there it is. Oh, I didn't put it in the render folder. You know what? That doesn't matter. I'm going to just go with it. Okay, and this is 8 frames a second. There's 588. Smack it in there. And sorry about that, guys. I was on the wrong screen there. So I just want to see if this kind of sort of flows reasonably well. See? See how that worked? You see what I did there? So now I think you believe me. I wasn't lying to you. These first 2 frames are literally only there to just suggest to the eye that he was going from this pose to this pose. Because truthfully, it goes by so quick you don't even see it. See that? This shot is really about this. This is what the shot's about. So these 2 frames are just in there to get you from here to here. So he's a little off character. We really don't care. Okay. Yeah, if you get into too many, this is really true, and it's actually the reason why recently, if you look at the background paintings here, I've been doing background paintings oftentimes. Now this one's obviously blurred, but I've been often doing background paintings with vectors because by laying in the local color of whatever it is you're drawing or painting. So local color meaning what's the fundamental basic color that it reflects. In this case, obviously green. Then you can take a very transparent white and build up levels of transparency. And I mean, for your water, that would probably be the way to do it, is actually just have a fairly dark blue, fairly saturated blue, and then just have one other color on your palette that's like a transparent white, like it's like 10% opaque. And then you do one layer of sort of ripples or waves over top of the blue, and then a second layer that you'd work into that. And what you probably want to do is get the first layer that's going to be fairly coarse, fairly simple, get that animated so that you like, just as a 2-tone thing, blue and then the lighter color over top of it, which is just a transparent white, so it looks like a lighter blue, okay? Because it's just adding white to the underlying blue, right? Get that feeling right, and then add another layer of your transparent white to build up maybe more detail in the waves, and then maybe an actual solid white color to just add some little sparkles of specular light here and there. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, I'd almost have to kind of try it to see how it worked out, but okay, so I'm gonna go back here, go to Tahoma, and as you can see, it worked. It worked. So even though I admit freely that he is a little off character on these first 2 frames, I'm pretty satisfied that no one is ever going to notice that in a million years. Okay? In the storyboard, the next thing that happens is it goes back to the nobles, and they're noticing the water. Now, I drew, frankly, in my pencil paper, sketch blocking out the scene. I actually drew the guy almost like this, but I kind of drew him in reverse, where it was his other hand and he was facing the other way. So we'll go ahead and use the storyboard for this shot. So where to from here? I think probably, because I am starting to feel a little dumpy, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to smack out the ink and paint as fast as I can, so that I can maybe wrap it up. So I didn't want to overdo it. And oh my goodness, that hasn't happened in a long time. What just happened, you might be wondering? Well, Tahoma just died. Tahoma just literally crashed. So I have no idea how much work I just lost. But I did render it, so I probably didn't lose much at all. It's 588. Okay, that's weird. Okay. Well, I have bad news, people. The bad news is that apparently I saved... Okay, so this is actually a good thing. For those of you... This actually gets back to the guy that I helped a couple weeks ago that was really, really frustrated with OpenToonz. We have what appears to be a horrible tragedy. Okay, the horrible tragedy is that the actual Toonz file, apparently I saved it. So like if we look at our render settings, I'll bet you they're correct. Yeah, scenes 588. Actually, this should have said render, but that's okay. So I saved everything, and then I drew everything and rendered it. So this is a little confusing because when you hit, let's look at this. Control-Shift-R just renders, so that's bad news. That's actually bad news. So that means I rendered this, and it actually never saved. That's pretty tragic. Excuse me, but not really. I can recover from this pretty easily, actually. How? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to import the render back into this scene, resave it, and start doing ink and paint, which is what I was going to do anyway. Make sense? So, in other words, this rendered sequence right here, I just need to, I actually could just grab these 4 drawings and just bring them in and then just start inking over them. So again, no big deal. No big deal, people. I think what I'll do is bring up my FS Viewer Portable. Let's jump over here. And what we should have, actually no, this would be a TLV file, so it's not going to be in the extras folder. It's going to be in the extras folder after I import it. So what I'm doing is I'm going to go to scene number 588. You'll see it right here. Here's 588. Okay, so this is all I have to do is grab these 3 drawings. Now if I drag it in here, it's going to bring in the whole sequence anyway. So if we come over to Tahoma, you can see that it brought in the whole sequence. So now all I have to do is, I could just leave it that way actually. I'm done. That did the trick. I'm not done working, but I mean I'm done solving the problem. Now, if I save all, it's actually going to save this image sequence in the extras folder, which arguably isn't actually a great idea, but anyway. So what went wrong a little bit ago was, oh, I didn't want a vector level. What went wrong is that I actually clicked here and then started drawing and did an auto create of a smart raster level. And as I had mentioned a couple weeks ago, Tahoma is pretty good at crashing when you, especially with vector levels. If you click here and start drawing and have it auto create the frames, it has a tendency to crash. That was, I think, the first time I ever saw it do it with a smart raster level instead of a vector level. So unfortunately, that would be a bug because there really is no scenario where it's good for the software to crash, right? So no big deal. We're gonna actually start rocking and rolling here and getting this inked in. Again, we don't have to be too meticulous with it. Just needs to kind of sort of look like Golic. There, I'm kind of making a little correction here. I think I'm going to sneeze. Sorry, guys. Maybe not. Yeah, I'm not going to go too much longer because I'm starting to feel a little grungy because I do have a cold, and I don't really want to push it. I don't want to push it and make myself sicker. So, yeah, this isn't the greatest drawing of Golek I've ever done, but again, it's on the screen for such a short time that it just doesn't matter much. It just does not matter. Boop 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 doop. Yeah, so he's gonna have kind of like these baggy eyes up there. He's kind of an old fella, but that age hasn't robbed him of ambition, I guarantee you that. So this is going to look like a speed paint because I'm going to go fast here, folks. I'm going to go fast. Boom, boom, boom. Well, it's kind of more fun when you go fast, honestly. I mean, if you don't consider yourself particularly great at drawing and you don't think you can go fast, then fine. There was a time when that was true for me where I needed to be a little more careful, but generally, nowadays, I usually can smack it out pretty quickly. And I have been on recent shots, and I will show you this. I feel pretty confident saying that the imagery has not suffered because of it. This shot was done very, very quickly the day before I left for my trip. So I think the image quality is looking pretty good. I can see his eye actually needs to be colored in white, though, there on that one frame. So there's a little correction I need to attend to in short order. Boo-doop, boop, ba-doop, doop. Yeah, come on. Just get him in there, baby. Get him in there. All right, so we got a little wrinkle there. Stretch that up like that, and shoo. Shoo. Okay, so we are going to have a problem here in that these are not closed shapes. One way to solve that would be to just go like that, so that when I color it, it's going to actually fill in. Okay, so, well, I never did draw his hands, did I? Here he's got his hands, well, I guess in the wide shot, what he probably was doing was something like this. And we don't have to worry about the details here. Again, this is all going to disappear off the screen in literally 2 frames. You could, if you wanted to, if you're feeling lazy, go like this. Control C, Control V. Take this, flip it around like that. And now if, who was it? Was it Max? I can't remember. Somebody's going to have a cow because the drawing is basically symmetrical. But come on, people. It's not a big deal. All right, let's see what we've got here. Probably we're okay. Save. All right, so this is going to be a duplicate. And then we're going to go S key here, grab this, pull that anchor spot right in there because this hand's coming down. Where the heck is that other hand? I put the hand in and then it disappeared. How did I manage that? I'm moving too fast apparently. Well, as long as we're fixing things, let's go ahead and fix this as well because it looks to me like I made his hand a little bit too small anyway. So I'm going to go Control C, Control V. Now that's interesting. Okay, so now we've got even more stuff to fix, which kind of sucks because I was really trying to be brisk about this and kind of get this wrapped up a little quicker, but the fates don't seem to be cooperating. Control C, Control V, grab this anchor point, bring that down just a skosh, And now E key for the eraser, come in here and patch this baby up a bit. Okay? Now, here we got the same situation. But before we cut and paste, we better make sure we close these shapes, otherwise they're not going to fill. S key, grab the selection, Control C, go to this frame, Control V, same situation. We're going to grab an anchor point at the top of the shoulder, just move it a little bit, so that the eyeball of the viewer just has a sense that something moved. Now let's save our work. Saving early and saving often is, if I didn't mainly use CSPEX, I'd probably mainly use Tahoma2D as well. Yep. Well, Soda Pop, I think that's cool. I mean, obviously, certainly in the anime industry, CSP is, I think it's used fairly widely now. So, I mean, as far as that end of things goes, from what I've heard, you know, just sort of picking things up here and there, Clip Studio Paint has kind of won the software wars as far as its adoption in the anime industry. Now, I don't know if that's completely accurate, but like I said, just from things I've picked up here and there, it seems like there's still a lot of, you know, pencil drawing and scanning, you know, going on in the anime industry. So, yeah, Clip Studio Paint's a good program. When I tried it, I have Clip Studio Paint, and I just don't like using it. I truly, and I've tried like 10 times. I just don't like the interface. I don't like the way the tools work. I don't like the layout. I don't like the interface. If I really dedicated myself to it, I probably would like it. Because if I don't like it, it's mainly because there's stuff about the interface that I either don't understand or there's probably something obvious that I don't know. But, I mean, come on. I'm getting the job done here with Tahoma, so who cares, right? So everybody should just use... That's what I said. That's what I was saying at the beginning of the live stream today, actually, before I started talking about the woman with the sick kids on the airplane. Oops, I don't want to draw his mouth. Is that's why I've been blocking in my shots on paper. Because when I come... you see how... I mean, I'm moving pretty fast right now, right? When I come to the software, I want to just execute. I don't want to sit there and think about it too much, especially if I'm live streaming, because, you know, I'm slowing myself down actually by talking. So some of you out there might be going, well, then, Dave, maybe you shouldn't talk so much. And you're probably right. But the kind of middle ground is to go ahead and plan out your shots on paper. Write little numbers with little art guides. Like here, like if this was on paper, this is what I'd be doing. In fact, I'll do it here on the sketch. What I would do is I would like grab a red pen, because I've got like mechanical pencils with red and blue ink or blue lead. Okay, so what I would do is in this drawing, I would just sketch this out here like this. So I would just draw right over top of it on the paper. So I would draw these two, and then I'd just make an indication, okay, there's going to be a tween there and maybe a tween there. And I would just block it out like that. And so I literally plan the timing and everything. I don't plan the lip sync because the lip sync always works the same way. So if he's going to be bending his body a little bit with the plastic tool, then I might kind of indicate that, you know, point to it and say plastic or something like that. But basically, I literally plan the work. And I find that I think that somebody who does that and plans it on paper probably could spend 2 weeks boning up on OpenToonz or Clip Studio Paint or even Blender, you know, 2.8 or something, 2.9, and could probably do a fine job of knocking these shots out. I don't think Tahoma's the ultimate tool. It's just a tool. And it's a pretty good one. So it's the one I use because I'm kind of used to it, and I seem to be able to get the job done. So, but they're all good. It isn't about the software. It's about the the work. I maintain that staunchly. Up. I maintain that staunchly. Yes, I do. Now here we're going to have to, repatch that in on the next shot when his arms straighten out. Okay, N key. Not too shabby. So now what we're going to do is go down here to where, so again, like I said, I'm not going to put in the lip sync. Okay, so I need to go to frame 11, save my work, Control S, and then all I'm going to do is hit the D key to make a duplicate, stretch this down to here. And by the way, after I finish inking this, if I really wanted to keep things clean, I would actually go into my extras folder and delete this image sequence, because there's no reason to keep it around, truthfully. It's just clogging things up. But for now, I'm going to hit the S key, grab this from about here, put that anchor point on. No, come on. Accidentally clicked just a little bit, and boom, it lost the selection. All right. Put the anchor point. I hate when that happens too. As long as we're complaining about software. I go to grab the little center point. What they should do, actually this would be a great suggestion for Tahoma. It's not a bug, but it would be a great little feature. Is when you go into the selection tool, if your mouse goes over the little center point where you set the rotation anchor, have the rotation anchor turn red so that you know the mouse is actually over it. Because what happens is you go to put your mouse over it, but you're not really over it. I mean, it looks like the mouse does change. I mean, the cursor changes, so I guess that's your clue. So, yeah, I guess it's kind of already there. So that didn't work at all. I'm going to delete that. Let's just delete these and redraw them. Actually, this one's probably okay, actually. Sorry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to steal the hand. I think if we steal the hand, we'll be okay. So this hand we could reuse. That actually looks pretty good. The other one, not so much. So now let's get rid of all this. Let's get rid of all this. And now we kind of know what we want to ink. Okay? So hit the B key, and boom. 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 We'll kind of go like that and erase most of that, even though we are going to have some wrinkle action in there. So just zoom in here and so I can kind of work quickly. Again, we don't need to worry about the details on the fingers. Most of the hand is actually off screen, as you can see. So N key. Okay, so now let's fix this hat. Boom, boom. E key, boom. Whoops, took off a little too much. So, okay. Now, I do believe, other than lip sync, let's hit the L key. See that? All we got to do is put his lip sync in there, color it, and we're good to go. Well, obviously we need a background, but pretty sure if you look at what we have here, I think we're probably going to be able to steal a background, like maybe this one from here. Okay, there is one thing I'm noticing though. Yep, I forgot something. Okay, I'm going to look at the messages real quick. British animator Bill Plimpton. I've heard of Bill Plimpton. Bill Plimpton packages his storyboard sketches to print a really sketchy comic of the movie and sells those. Yeah, exactly. Right. That's a good idea. Kudos to you. Use what thou wilt. Yep, that's exactly right, Soda Pop. See, Soda Pop, that's funny. You're stoked about the Resolve 17 update, and you've probably heard me. I've had really bad luck with DaVinci. For like 10 years. I've never had a good experience trying to install it and just be able to get anything done. But if you know, it might be time to try it again, you know. It is a powerful, wonderful piece of free software, that's for darn sure. I mean, as a color correction tool and whatnot, it's fantastic. Okay, so the basic problem we have is we got to go in and correct this. In truth, Yeah, tell you what we're going to do. Let's just delete this. I'm going to redo this. I'll leave the little jewel in there, but this is wrong. Okay, so this, I'm just going to, so that I'm not tempted to try to salvage some part of something that's clearly wrong, I'd rather just completely delete it and redraw it. So the problem is that there's sort of this, there's this yellow border, and I didn't really make the hat vertical enough. So that is, that's a good idea. Hitchcock wasn't animated, but he was so meticulous in storyboarding the entire movie. Angles and all was pretty much there. Well, and that's because Hitchcock, you know, not to compare myself to Hitchcock, because obviously that would be a pretty arrogant thing to do, but I know his way of looking at filmmaking was definitely very similar to mine. He was very, very economical. He was very much, you know, Robert Rodriguez obviously is that way. I am that way. I plan meticulously. I'm pretty sure Ron Howard is that way. I don't know that, but I think he is. Because when Ron Howard started, he was actually, he got his break making films for Roger Corman. So that, darn it. So like Eat My Dust and Grand Theft Auto were done for under Roger Corman's label, which I think at that time was New World Records, New World Pictures, I mean. And Ron Howard is one of those guys too who really, and he's made some really high-end movies, but yet I think he's quite meticulous about the you know, planning and budget, and well, it's like I was saying about planning on paper. Like in principle, it's kind of the same thing. The idea is when you sit down to your software, you want to execute. You're not sitting down at the software to decide what you're going to do. I'd rather decide what I'm going to do on paper and then sit down at the software to execute. Other people will disagree, but I can definitely say with some authority that when it comes to filmmaking, I have worked on films with directors who didn't do it the way I suggest, and OMG, you sit there on the set just twiddling your thumbs, waiting for the director to like figure out what he's going to do. And it's so tedious and so expensive. I mean, you're paying for those actors to just sit around and wait for you to figure out what the shot's supposed to be. That's what I call stupid. Super non-economical. Now, if I want this line to be right, why don't I do it this way? I should have done this before, but I didn't think of it. Control C, Control V, and just put the line offset like that. Why didn't I think of this before? I am so silly. Okay, and then just patch it up and clean it up, right? That's better. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so now here we're going to go, I think I'm actually just going to grab all this and let it overlap a little bit. Like that. Control C. Go here. Oh, this is all wrong. This is all wrong. This is terrible. Terrible, I say. Control V. Okay, is it going to work? Yes, it did. Okay, cool. So now I had to hit the S key first. You hit the S key so that the selection tool is invoked, and then it remembers what was on the clipboard. So stick that in your pipe and smoke it, people. Okay. That'll work. That'll work. Okay, so now he also had this little kind of tippy top kind of thing. So I'm just going to go like this and assume that I probably can go Control V and have it work. And it did. Perfect. Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. There is Shift space bar. Yes. And I knew that was going to happen. Okay, so what just happened? What just happened was I hit the wrong tool, and my fingers are moving fast. I hit a combination of keys, and now what we have is it appears that there's an erroneous, like 1 pixel line in my drawing that's like over every frame. So clearly that's a bug. That is not really there, I'm pretty sure. Well, it is there. Okay, so that's horrifying. So now so what just happened? There is a circumstance under which if your fingers are moving too fast, you hit the wrong key, it gets confused about what tool you're using, and it actually draws something on the screen. And not only does it draw something, but it literally draws the line and puts it over every frame. I don't think, and then I just hit the erase button and it disappeared. So, okay, I'll take it. Wow. That was a little winky. I didn't think, this I was about to say, is that I didn't think that was really in the drawing, that it was just, you know, an erroneous line in the software buffers, but not actually baked into the drawing. So I was a little weirded out when I looked at the drawing and actually saw it there. But then when I hit the eraser key, it just disappeared. So that's a good example of where OpenToonz and Tahoma, they've got some little bugginesses, but it turns out in the long run, it doesn't actually really cause much of a problem. So there's no such thing as software that doesn't have bugs anyway. So no point complaining too much. Even though I've been known to in the past, I don't think I've ranted too much about software in recent days. I've been trying to control myself. Control yourself, sir. Okay, now the one thing that is bugging me though is what happened to this. I thought I cut and pasted this in here. Control C, Control V. Okay, so as far as ink goes, I think we're kind of sort of done. So I'm going to save my work. The camera idea. You're talking about cropping it to broadcast HD so you've got room to zoom in? Is that what you're talking about, Soda Pop? I don't know, Maria. I really don't want to complain. I've allowed myself to kind of get annoyed and frustrated with my tools at times, and in recent days I'm trying to grow up a little bit and quit doing that so much. Just, I want to grow. I want to be a better person, you know. I just really kind of do. So Soda Pop, if you're talking about the kind of having images that are one dimension and a camera that's cropped in on it, I will point out something else you're probably going to want to know, which is that if you go to your level settings, you can change the canvas size. So you can actually scale. If you find out after the fact that you needed your frame to be bigger, you can resize it. You can play around with this. The key to the resizing is you have to select the cells. If you select the header like this, I don't believe it works. Yeah, it's grayed out. So you have to select the cells in the X sheet. And then even if you only select one of them, don't quote me on this, try it yourself, but I'm pretty sure even if you select one frame, if you go in and change the canvas size, it'll resize the entire frame. And this is where OpenToonz and Tahoma really are outstanding, because I tell you the truth, as far as pixel paint or art programs, OpenToonz and Tahoma do a better job of dealing with fairly large frame sizes than any other software I've used. Now, if you get into basically vector type formats like Blender, that may not be so true, but certainly with pixel formats, it's pretty darn performant, actually. Okay, so we're going to be putting lip sync over top of that. And yeah, cool. Yep, sometimes you just, you know, sometimes you want to select the contents in your frames and resize that, but then other times you actually want to give yourself some more real estate. So this is what the camera sees, but this is what's actually there. So obviously that's going to present a problem. If I'm in this mode right here where I'm cropped to the camera, oh, come on, OBS. Silly old OBS keeps disconnecting and reconnecting as usual. Okay, we're streaming again. I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Yeah, and Soda Pop, you're completely right. that is totally another way to accomplish the same thing. Just have everything be full HD, and then just have one animated frame, like on the very first frame, just resize your camera to whatever you want. And don't forget, you may know this, but I'll show it just so other people can be aware, is that you can always go into, you can click this 3D view, and actually, if you hit Shift Spacebar, you can zoom in. If you hit Control Spacebar, you can also, a lot of people don't know this, that in OpenToonz and Tahoma, you can actually toggle around in the 3D frame, in the 3D workspace. And then if you grab any level, like I'll do it with this one because it's going to be deleted anyway. And then you hit the animate tool, and then you hit Control, then you can actually move it on the Z-axis, and that's how you set up like parallax camera moves. You know, because obviously you can go into the camera column and you can move it as well. You can size it, do whatever you want to do. So there you go. So it's pretty, you know, most of what you want to do, you can do. You just got to know how. So, okay. I Love You says, it must be rain. Okay. I've got a little feeling about that comment, but I'll keep it to myself. Makes for better animation and renders out perfectly in the safe area, which you can check with the eyeball preview. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. So anyway, you guys, here's the deal. We've been going for over an hour, and I do have a cold, and I really want to kind of go, well, I want to take care of myself. I don't want to push it. So for tonight, you know, I was on vacation for a week, and even though it was a vacation, it was a very, very busy time. You know, a lot of running around. I really kind of needed to wind down and recover, and so today is kind of my day of winding down and recovering, and plus it's like I'm sort of fighting a cold. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for tonight. And as you guys know, as I always say, there will be more later. And this is the place to go. I will say this. If you don't necessarily want to learn the software, you'll learn some things about the software. But if you're not here to learn the software, if your goal is to watch the real world work, as slow, as tedious, you know, as challenging as it may be, if what you want to see is the actual work, then this is the right channel to subscribe to, because that's what I'm doing. And at this point in history, we have all this done on episode 2, and we've only got, the cool part is, right now we have only 3 minutes and 39 seconds to go in order for episode 2 to be done being animated. And episode 1, of course, is also already done. So OBS is being stupid, and just as I was about to sign off, OBS decided to disconnect. So before it decides to do so again, I'll go ahead and say goodnight. See you, Soda Pop. See you, Maria. See ya, I Love You. Yes, it definitely must be rain. It certainly is rain. Whatever the hell that means. And Nutgut, see you later. If you're here, it looks to me like there's probably a few other people. Inio-san, we'll see you next time. There's a few other people here who haven't... and thank you, Maria. That's very sweet. We're just going to keep rocking, and we're getting there. So anyway, good night, and I will probably see you guys tomorrow. Not guaranteed, but I'll probably. So look for a live stream tomorrow. If you're not subscribed, do so. And